If you've been anywhere near weight loss or diabetes conversations in the last few years, then you know about Ozempic. You know that people are shelling out hundreds of dollars a month indefinitely. You know the theme song. You couldn't escape it. But here's something that's crazy that's happening right now. Canada is the only country in the world where a generic version is hitting shelves and disappearing off of them just as quickly. What gives? My name is Mac, and I'm a nurse. I'm going to walk you through what all this means and what the headlines just aren't necessarily grasping about all this. Because cheaper Ozempic is true, but there's a little bit more to it. So the quick version is that Ozempic is nothing more than a brand name. The actual active ingredient or the drug that's in it is a molecule called semaglutide. Now, when a drug patent's protection ends, other manufacturers are allowed to make that molecule and then sell it. Usually it's cheaper. That's what a generic is. Same active ingredient, different company. This spring, Health Canada approved 2 generics for semaglutide, one of them being from Dr. Reddy's, the other being from Apotex, which is one of Canada's largest drug manufacturers. And they started physically arriving in pharmacies in May. So here's the detail that I find a little wild, but also a great lesson for why things are as fragile as they are in the pharmaceutical industry, is that everything that's going on in Canada right now came down to a patent lapse. So a few $100s paid to keep a patent alive or re-registered, and it just didn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, a patent lapses, and it's an open market. We'll come back to why this matters for you as the consumer. So is it cheaper? Yeah. But I think we need to look at a little bit more of the specifics behind this. So in Canada, the way pricing works for medication is not the free-for-all that you may think that it is. It's set more by agreements. Roughly speaking, when you have 2 manufacturers who are making a generic, the price is supposed to land somewhere around half of what the brand name is charging. So when a third manufacturer shows up, that price has to drop a bit further, and so on and so forth. So what we're looking at is not some one-time price discount of Ozempic or it's accompanying a generics. What we're looking at is effectively a staircase. Now, prior to the generics entering the market, we were at the very top of the staircase. Ozempic was king. And that's how it was. And that's how it was going to be. But now that we have 2 generics coming in, we're a little bit down the staircase. We've taken a couple of steps. In a year's time or a few years' time, once we have more players in the market, we're going to be closer and closer and closer to the bottom of that staircase. All right, so let's put this into real numbers so that you have a kind of understanding of where we're at right now. So right now, June 2026, you're heading into a Costco pharmacy. You're looking at like 90-ish bucks a month to be able to get your generic filled, which is crazy. Through a telehealth service, you're going to be paying a little bit more, but again, that's for the convenience, not the brand. But the real twist is this. Novo Nordisk, which is the company behind Ozempic, has had to issue discounts left, right, and center to try and keep their customers in the pipeline. Because why would I shell out $400 when I could go spend $100? And that's how the system works. I mean, it's exactly designed for this kind of an outcome. So even Ozempic is getting cheaper. Even Ozempic is getting more accessible because of this generic showing up, which is just, it's wonderful for the market. And as consumers, you stand to gain. Just so we're clear, this pricing data that I'm giving right now is based on current reports and pricing frameworks. As time goes on, likely these numbers will shift. They will probably trend downwards, but just so you're aware. So that brings us to the question that everybody is going to ask. Is the generic as good as the brand name? So this is actually one of my favorite questions when it comes to medications, because for an approved generic, the answer is always going to be yes. And it's more than just like oh, trust me, bro, or oh, Health Canada said it's cool, but so it's cool. What it breaks down to is simply this. In order to get approval for a generic, you have to meet a certain bar, and that bar is something called bioequivalence. So what is that? Simply put, the generic drug has to deliver to your bloodstream the same amount of the same active ingredient at the same rate as the brand drug. That leaves you absolutely zero room to be sold snake oil. So what that means is it's the same molecule, semaglutide. in the same pen style device and at the same dose strengths. So really, the only thing that you're seeing is a different name on the manufacturer because it's a different manufacturer. So I'm sure if this were years ago, probably even before my time as an adult, I could have probably stopped this video here and called it a day. But we live now in an age where access to anything, not just medications, is just so readily available. We have Amazon. We have all of our favorite supplement websites. We have all of these places where we can just buy things. And there's not really much in the way of regulation to cut some of these bad players who happen to exist in these spaces out of these spaces. So one thing I have to stress with this is bioequivalent generic, or the term bioequivalent generic. It's a well-established regulatory standard that it comes from a long track record across thousands of drugs. And all of that is what makes up the evidence-based nature of the pharmaceutical industry, of the just broader healthcare industry. So the thing that we need to be wary of are compounded versions, gray market online sellers, your favorite peptide vial website. All of those places are areas you don't want to be when you're shopping for things like semaglutide, because any claims that they make there, unless you have a clear stipulation from Health Canada that insert whatever peptide website here is approved, they're just that. They're just claims. You don't know what is cut into these things to make them cheaper from a production standpoint. You don't know that you're guaranteed the doses that they're telling you are on those pens or in those vials. So you need to be very skeptical. Always go through a prescriber. Always go to a pharmacist and make sure what you're getting is verifiably what you're getting. So I want to cover next just what the headlines have skipped. We'll keep it a bit short because it's really not too much, but it's still important stuff to remember. So some people may not know this. Though semaglutide was very well understood at the time, Ozempic was not actually designed to be a weight loss drug. It was more for the management of type 2 diabetes. Weight loss was an added benefit of using Ozempic, but it wasn't the main purpose for it. If you want something that's specific, what you'd be looking at is Wegovy, which is totally designed for weight loss because it is the same molecule, semaglutide, but just at an increased dosage structure that targets specifically weight loss. The interesting thing about Ozempic is that weight loss component is what would be called an off-label use, right? Because originally the official purpose for that formulation was to manage type 2 diabetes, but an off-label use or a non-intended use is weight loss. So this is not something that's new to Ozempic. This is something that has happened across thousands of medications. One very popular one is Epival, or the generic for that is Devalproix. But essentially what this medication was originally a formulated anti-epileptic or anti-seizure medication. And then we found through research and trials that it actually helps as a very effective mood stabilizer for bipolar or mania. This is why you'll find that it's quite popular in psychiatric medicine. Okay, so this brings us to the next topic, which would be drug coverage. And from a provincial standpoint, it's obviously going to be different with each province, what they cover, but traditionally, weight loss drugs don't typically end up covered. So we'll see where things go or if there are any changes that are made, but the way it's looking, probably there won't be public drug coverage. Really, the story here would be just cheaper out-of-pocket cost for consumers. So I just want to take a quick second to talk about the most important part about this whole story, is that despite cheaper costs, this is still the same medication. So all of the same risks apply. The concern is that now this medication is a lot more accessible. So people need to understand that they need to have these conversations with their prescriber, with their pharmacist, to find out whether A, this medication is right for you, and B, what your treatment plan looks like. Because what works for one person may not work for yourself, and you certainly don't want to be freestyling this kind of thing, because there are some very real risks involved. And I'll probably go into a video about it, explaining more in depth the concept of semaglutide, but not just semaglutide, but all the other GLP-1s that people use to spark weight loss or for this kind of biohacking scene that exists. And in there, then we can look a little bit more in depth at the risks that are involved, but just understand that you want to have a professional helping you with this medication because there are real risks associated with it. So, now that that's out of the way, I just want to explain like why I'm even making this kind of a video. It's basically because what we're witnessing is a very interesting phenomenon, right? We're witnessing the introduction of a generic for a crazy popular brand drug. And always the question on people's mind is the generic as good as the brand stuff? And I think it's a perfect little window into what it is that I want to put out here on this platform, is talking about how to separate, evidence from the noise. And people will say a lot of things about all these different medications. They'll suggest all of these different methods of, achieving health, living aligned, doing better for yourself from a health perspective. And if you aren't able to discern what is true evidence-based effective stuff from what is hype, what is trendy, what is popular at the time, you stand to lose far more than you stand to gain. You can get lucky, you can follow someone's advice and it can help you, but if you don't know why you're taking a medication or what specifically it's doing to your body, you are gambling. You are guessing. So what I hope to offer is kind of a window into learning how to basically sift through the evidence to find quality solutions to your health problems, and how to make informed decisions, whether that's to go against the grain or to follow the science. At least you know what it is that you're choosing to do, as opposed to just picking things based off of vibes or feelings or what your favorite creator said that you should try and do. So the ultimate takeaway from all of this is basically, before you go running to your favorite creator's peptide website or some gray market online seller, talk to a prescriber, talk to somebody who can help you make an informed decision. Do your own research, find out what is going to be beneficial to you. Find out what you can talk about, because it's always better to go into these kind of conversations with at least an idea so that you know what questions to ask, what to look out for, what to choose, what to pick. As always, my name's Mac, and I hope you're brought a little bit closer to living aligned after watching this. Thanks for watching.